Hello and welcome to another live coaching. I'm back on Maui. How are you doing? Did you sail this week? Even though I've been back on Maui, I have not windsurfed. I went swimming at Hokipa, but otherwise, there haven't been conditions on the North Shore. Maybe there have been on the west side. I haven't even checked. I haven't been in the state to go driving around looking for conditions. One rule of thumb, especially after a long trip like coming from Europe all the way to Maui, is to give yourself time to recover from the travel fatigue. It's really hard on your body. And I know a lot of people and myself have had the experience of being injured windsurfing the day or the day after you've traveled. So I really like to take it easy when uh, when I get to a new place, a long plane ride, the jet lag. I've had a couple different issues. I had it once in Pozo, which is not that long of a plane ride, but maybe 6 hours from Germany, and and tweaked my neck. I had a good session, but then I couldn't turn my head for the next 5 days, and I really blame the plane for that because your body's in such a weird state. You know, it's dry air, you're cramped, you're dehydrated. And then I've also had the issue coming from Europe to Hawaii where I have a hard session on the first or second day, and then the jet lag is multiplied. So then instead of, only needing maybe 4 or 5 days to feel normal again, needing 10 days. And yeah, that's hard. So take it really easy. First few days, I went swimming at Hokipa, and there hasn't actually been wind at Hokipa. So maybe today there will be some wind. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It looks like I can see the trees moving out the window. We've had huge stormy swell. Axel is in the chat. Hey there, Axel. Jorg as well. Jorg got on the water today. Nice. What was the session like, other than that the water was cold? Christoph in Santa Cruz. And we've got Ragnar as well. Hello, Ragnar. Working on his ice surfing. I love it. All right, I'm going to load up the Facebook group. Hey, Matt. Matt is in the chat, but no sailing. Suna also is in the chat. Hello, hello. All right, I'm going to load up the Facebook group. We're going to get into it. If you guys have any questions, ask away. You know the drill. Interrupt me. Max is also around. No wind, but been doing a lot of work, practicing the tack footwork. Nice. Jorg was on his 5-5. Cool. All right, I'm going to load up the Facebook group. And let's just get into it. So here's the Facebook group. I'm going to refresh the page, make sure we don't miss anything. All right. So first up is a post from Graham Wardle, but the contents are not available. So Graham, I think you're new here. If this is your first post, you might have to change the permissions. Maybe this is spam. If it is spam, we'll delete it. But let's give Graham the benefit of the doubt for a few days and see if we can get that post working again. Next up, we've got Greg in the chat. Hey, Greg. So Greg was in Cornwall yesterday, survival session with light winds. Heavy duty. Heavy duty. All right, Leonardo. So let's check out the video from Leonardo. So he's setting up on this wave, setting up. It looks like it's about to break. Then it doesn't. That's tricky. Looks like a tricky wave to get the timing right. I thought the wave was going to break then. So when I look at this video and I see this whitewater forming, all my instincts are saying, oh, the wave is going to break. And it looks like Leonardo thought the same thing because he went for a turn. But then the wave disappeared. And then he sets up again, goes for another turn. Not much power in the wave. Not much power. I like the speed in this bottom turn. So when we're looking at bottom turns, we're looking at how much speed, how much turn is actually done, so how much of the circle is completed. We're looking at how much the board is carving. And this turn has a good amount of carve. You know, we can see this nice circle, right? See this nice circle behind him and pretty good speed. So the only thing I would say, Leonardo, because you mentioned in your comment that maybe you should change part of your bottom turn technique. I like this bottom turn a lot. It does what we need it to do. It's getting you up the wave with speed where you want to be. But is it where you want to be? And that's I think the question uh, that we can talk about. And so you're coming up right next to the whitewater. I think for this kind of wave, especially because they don't have much power, you want to aim your turn to hit this whitewater right here. And this section is difficult to get the timing on. It's the opposite of a corner pocket. So the corner pocket is when you have that kind of section coming at you. This is the opposite. It's going away from you. So it's hard to get the timing, but that's what I want you to aim for, and you'll be able to pick up more speed because right now you're kind of doing the turn under the power of the wave, and so you're not taking much power out of the wave in the cutback. And one of the things that we always say is that the bottom turn is your job and the cutback is the wave's job. So you want to be getting a good deal of speed out of the cutback on the wave. And so you want to make sure that you're hitting a power source. So you've got this nice round bottom turn where you're doing a lot of work, you're doing your job, but I want you to aim for that power source. And all right, let's see the next turn. Are we going to have a similar issue? And yes, we do. So you're doing the work of the cutback. I want to see you letting the wave do more work in the cutback. So instead of aiming under that whitewater and cutting your bottom turn short, keep that nice arc and hit the whitewater. Get a high five on the whitewater. We've got one more video to go through. So we've got a couple questions in the chat before we get to the next video from Leonardo. How is the Maui community after the fires? I think overall the community seems good, but specifically the the Lahaina community is suffering. It's going to be a long time before the town is rebuilt, and a lot of people don't have homes. And there's an effort by the government to help house those people, but there's a shortage of housing on Maui anyway. It's really difficult. It's really difficult. Yeah. So it's really a tragedy, the aftermath of the fires. And yeah, it's difficult. We've got Irene in the chat. Irene on Facebook. Hello, Irene. Why can't you surf the waves? Sounds like you're in the right place, though. Tarifa and Bologna. All right, let's watch this next video from Leonardo. So similar thing, nice speed in the bottom turn, gripping wide, getting low, going a little bit early, but we already realized that these waves are really difficult to get the timing right. All right, that is more of what we're looking for in terms of the high five. So this is a corner pocket section. And let's look at how this works. So corner pocket is coming at him. He's sailing right into the section. So you're getting some projection over the white water, which some people like, some people don't like. I'm going to talk about how you can change your technique so that doesn't happen if it's something you don't like. But what I want to highlight here is how much speed you get out of it. Look how much acceleration. So from hitting the section rather than turning under the section, you're able to get so much speed. Let's watch this again. So I love it. Let's watch the whole wave ride again, and then I'm going to tell you one little thing that you can do to help stay in the wave rather than getting projected on top of it. So these first turns, we already established this wave is really difficult to get the timing on. So there's not a whole lot to say there. The timing, they're a bit early, but it's really hard to say. So now for this cutback, there's a lot that we like in the body position. Oops. Oops, I clicked the wrong thing. You guys, hold on. Hold on. Oh, someone's sailing in Paternoster and Iserfontein. All right, here we are. Gotta get this thing full screen again. All right. So what you can do in this situation, if you don't want to be projected on top of the whitewater, is get as low as you can go. So get your butt really low, hang down from the boom, let the sail fly above you. So you're trying to get your butt low and you're trying to keep the sail high. So the feeling I have is that I'm hanging from the sail, but some people have the feeling that they're pushing the sail above them, because if you pull in on the sail, which Leonardo starts to do here, we can see that with the backhand, that's going to pull you out of the power of the wave and on top of the wave. And it's still cool. This is not a bad turn. But if you want to stay in the wave and do more of a radical cutback rather than this kind of floater, what you can do is get really low, keep that sail flying. You don't want to sheet in on it at all. And then you could even look with your head back towards this other whitewater. That's not 100% necessary, but it might help to get that turn back around, because you want to think about coming not here, not in front of the wave, but actually back to this other whitewater behind you. So you're doing a 180-degree turn, and that will make this nice radical off the lip. Now, I've already said it a bunch, but I'll say it again. This kind of off the lip is also fine. It's a nice off the lip coming on top, doing a little floater. But if you want to do a different kind of cutback on that section, that would be how you do it. Peter. Peter has sailed twice in Elands Bay, nice, and waited for the wind in Scarborough, but it didn't come. Too bad. All right, next up, we have a question from another Leonardo, different Leonardo. He's been sailing the Zeta, and he wants to find a rigging video. Okay, so this is something that I will figure out. So it seems like Vimeo changed their terms, and now all the videos that were around and available need a password or something. I'm not really sure what Vimeo changed, but I'll look into this and I will get you this video somehow. Fabienne, next up. Oh, we got one more question. So Ragnar is asking, what if Leonardo wanted to do an aerial? So that's a good question. So if you want to do an aerial, you're not going to be thinking about going behind you. You're going to be thinking about going very down the line, like Leonardo was doing. But you want to come up to that section more upright. So instead of coming into the section with the board at this angle and the body so low, you sort of sailing into the lip, but it's not like a jump. It's not like you're hitting a ramp. You're sailing into it, but you want to still get that the high five where the angle of the board is the same angle of the wave. So then you get the projection from the lip. All right, Fabian's got a question. He's looking for a boom for his 7.5. So I don't know if you guys in the chat or if you're sailing big free ride sails. I use Chinook. I'm happy with Chinook. Chinook works great. But there are other high-end carbon booms that would also work. So if you have a favorite carbon boom brand, throw it in the chat. I'm using Chinook. All right, next up, we've got a question from Joe. Joe wants to talk about bigger waveboards. He wants to get a bigger waveboard. All right, this is a question for you guys. How big is your biggest waveboard and what is your weight? So how big is your biggest waveboard and what is your weight? So Joe, 87 kilograms. He does 50 sessions a year. He's based in Cornwall. He sails in all conditions. Side on, big beach breaks, side off, float and ride. He loves to jump. He's an efficient sailor and good at tacking. His wave riding is poor, he says, despite it being the main thing he does. He feels sluggish and he rides off the back foot and sheets in too much. Yes, you should submit some footage. Footage is the best the best way to learn. Uh, you get the most gains from just looking at the footage. He wants to compete at the 2 British wave events this year. I love this. We've got a really good overview, some goals. Boards are the 2018 Goya 84 quad and the 2015 Radical Quad Pro 94. And so Joe is 87 kilos. So he's got the 84, which is his ideal board, he says, and the 94, which is battered and glued all over. It's his go-to board. So can he blame the board for his wave riding technique? You definitely can. You definitely can blame your board for your wave riding technique. And it doesn't mean it's a bad board, but different boards for different folks are going to be, yeah, different for what they need. And what works for me might not work for you. Also, how you have the board tuned is really important. So, Joe, one of the things I would recommend is taking some photos of how you have your quad tuned and posting them here in the chat, in the comments, and we can see how it looks. Because changing where the mass base is, changing how the fins are, how the footstraps are, makes a huge difference. So if we can see your setup, that would be helpful. We've got some answers in the chat. So Christoph says he's 63 kilos and his biggest board is 84. That's a big jump. Do you feel like you can still turn the 84 or does it feel too big? Suna says he's 70 kilos and his biggest board is 88. So that's a little bit less of a jump. Matt is 80 kilos and biggest board is 96. So that's a similar jump to Suna. Max says 83 and he's got a 105, a 95, and a 90. They all float him good. Axel says 105, he's 84 kilos, and he has a 94 that he likes. So that's, yeah, 105 is also a pretty big jump. Jorg says he's 72, biggest is 96, also a big jump. So what we're seeing here is a lot of 20-liter jumps for the biggest board. Christoph says the 84 is fine, it turns well. He's mostly on his 75-liter. Greg is 85 and his biggest is 99. We've got Facebook saying 98 kilos and 95 and 105. That's a much smaller jump. So I can't see who this is on Facebook, but do you feel like the 105 gives you enough float? Tavi is 72 kilos and 86. It's his one board, takes it everywhere. So my weight fluctuates a lot, but let's say I'm between 88 and 90 kilos. And I can take an 88-liter board pretty much everywhere, but I'm a pretty efficient sailor. And a 96-liter board is enough float for me. I can sail that in pretty much no wind. But I don't think that I'm the benchmark here, but just in case you guys are curious. Also on Facebook, we've got 78 kilos with an 85 and a 105. All right, let's get back to Joe's question. So I already said that the board, how it's set up is really important. Also, how it feels for you. This board might work for someone and it might not work for you, Joe. So his question is that he wants a bigger board for lighter winds. And because he needs to get across a fast-flowing estuary to sail in cross-off, float and ride, or do some jumping off the beach. He can do forwards and push loops and is trying to get the back loop. Okay, so are there any ideas? So he's tried the Goya 114, which felt big, and the Goya Nitro 106. Oh no, he hasn't tried it. He took out a 20-year-old Fanatic Freeway, and it was fun. What should he be looking at? So my favorite board that's a bigger size is the Decurve, so the 96-liter Decurve. And the boards from the last, what time frame? Maybe from 2019 until now, or 2018 until 2023. So there's a change in 2024. But before that change, the boards were pretty similar to each other, if not the same. So if you can find a Taboo 96, I think it's like from 2019 to 2023 or 2018 to 2023, something in that range. They're really has one. He's a little bit lighter than you are, Joe, but if you're an efficient sailor, it should be good enough. And they're pretty fast boards. So that's one of the things I really like about the production Decurves is that they're fast, but they still turn. So I think it's a pretty good option. So Christoph is saying you have to take into account his big wetsuit and impact vest. Axel's saying that good sailors can use smaller boards. Definitely true. Also, bigger sailors can use smaller boards. So I think the heavier you are, the less extra liters you need for your big board. I don't know why that works. Are there any engineers in the chat that want to speculate? Greg says he really needed his 99 yesterday. So I really like, if you're asking for recommendations, I really like the 96 Decurve that's been around for the last 5-6 years. The new one, actually, I haven't tried the production board. So I'm mainly talking about 2023 and back to about 2018. But otherwise, there might be some technique issues we can look at in terms of your wave riding. I would love to get some video. Some video would be really helpful. Otherwise, I know a lot of people are really happy with the Quattro boards. I think there's some good comments in here. We got 44 comments from people. I know a lot of people are happy, like I said, with the Quattros. Axel saying that if you're bigger, the harness and the wetsuit don't make as much of a difference. That could be. I'm not sure. All right. And just like that, we are caught up. That went quick. That went quick. Amazing. Amazing. We've got a few minutes before I've got to go. I wonder, do you guys have any recommendations for big boards? I'd love to hear what big boards you're using and whether you like it. And if you've had a big board that you don't like, what was it and why? What was it and why? So like I said, I really like the Decurve, and my big boards are kind of all in that range, like 95, 96. I've got a big wave board on Maui that I really like. It's a 95, and I even use it in not really light conditions, but it just feels like a cruise ship when it turns on the waves in a good way. It's stiff, but it's a stiff board, but it just feels so comfortable in the big waves and in the chop. Christoph is saying that K4 fins are now standard on Taboo boards. That's true. That's true. Yeah, and the fins can make a big difference. So, Joe, you might find it useful to play with your fins, maybe trying a set of K4s, getting some of the K-force toe in, like the Ezzy fins, maybe some 8s in the front, scorchers in the rear. That's what I use on my thruster, but it's also what I would use if I were riding a quad right now. Greg is saying that he really likes the Simmer Frugal 99. He uses it as a quad. Awesome. Yeah, it's hard finding a big board because you don't want something with too much volume in the wrong place, and then that can make it really difficult to turn. Axel saying that the 105 Flicker Free Wave has more rocker in the rails. He wanted something that planes easy because it's his only big board, but it still turns when you put in the work. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have all some big boards you're happy with. Having a big board that you're happy with is really important. And I think having your favorite board be a small board is something that can really hurt your session, can really hurt your gains, because then you're always making excuses in your head why you should go on the small board. I see this so often where someone has a small board or a smallish board, doesn't have to be a tiny board, that's their favorite board. And then when they're looking at the conditions and deciding what to rig, they're like, oh, yeah, I can go on my 76 or whatever it is. And they rationalize it in their head and they end up on too small of a board. They're not catching waves, they're not having fun, they're not progressing. So having a big board that you are comfortable with and you like sailing and you're excited to go on is really important because it gets you on the water more, gets you more waves, and then you don't need, I lost you guys for a second. And then you don't need to double check your own thinking, because if you have a small board that you really love, then you're going to rationalize using that small board. Ragnar says he's got a Quattro Power 105 that he's happy with. Awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. I will see you next week, Sunday. Hopefully, I get in the water. We got one more question that just popped up from Suna. How small is your smallest board? He says his is a 76 and he's 70. So Suna, I think you could go smaller. You're an efficient sailor. I would try going smaller. My smallest board is 82. And as long as it's like 4-7 wind, I can sail on that. In Pozo, for example, where the winds are 4-2 and under, 82 is plenty for me. But even on Maui, I can use the 82. And I have an 84 that I use even with a 5-0. And again, I'm like 88, 90 kilos. So I'm not a reference, but it gives you a bit of a reference. So I think, Suna, you could try a 68-liter board if you can find one. I think it would also feel fine. Or a 70-liter board. The problem once you get too small is the boards are really hard to find. So under 70 liters, I think it's difficult to find small boards. There is a so Suna, I think you know Philip in Handstone. He's a friend of Windsurfing Masterclass, a friend of the channel, and I wonder what size he's using. So he has an old Fanatic that he loves, and I want to say it's like 68 liters. Uh, I'm just curious. It'd be interesting to try that just for a wave or two, just to see how it feels. I'm pretty sure you know Philip. Jorg is saying that he loves the curves. He tried the Goya and the Fanatic in the 95 to 100-liter range, but they were too hard to turn for him. Chris says biggest board is 68. Axel says 82, but he can only use it with serious power. Awesome, guys. I'm going to sign off. I'll see you next week, Sunday. I hope you get on the water. I hope I get on the water and post your video in the group. I will probably get on the water and probably have some footage. Otherwise, I'll go through my footage from South Africa and I'll see if I have something to post in the group. And I encourage you to also post. If you don't have footage, you can post a question or a photo, but I really do encourage you to get footage. So if you're getting on the water and you have a friend with a phone, ask them to film just one wave or one jump is really, really useful. Or your tacks, film 2 tacks on the inside. will help you a million times over. All right. Take care. Have a good windy week. Thank you all for showing up. I'll see you next week, Sunday.